What is up, everybody? This is Philip Enriquez for the Say What You Like Sports Podcast. I am joined today by my co-host, Eric Hernandez. Say what's up to the people out there.
What's up?
We are watching game 3.
Yeah, game
of
3.
The NBA Finals. Toronto Raptors, Golden State Warriors. It's 73-62, and I'm loving seeing the Toronto Raptors have a 11-point lead right now.
Are they gonna break the curse of Drake?
They have to. They have to. But you know what I wanted to ask you, man? Am I anti-American because I'm cheering for a Canadian team to win?
Not when the
American. And I'm a Californian.
Yeah, but not when that American team has Draymond Green on it.
That's that. Point taken. But we're not here to talk basketball.
No.
We're here to talk a little football, a little Cowboys 49ers crosstalk, which we will be doing all season long for the 2019 NFL season. So if you're a 49ers fan, a Cowboys fan, get ready to hear a lot of crosstalk beginning now. We want to start off in the offseason talking about expectations.
Yep.
So when it comes to expectations, the Cowboys and the 49ers, I feel, have their fair share of high expectations.
Yep.
But I want to start at the top, the GMs. This one might not be a little fair.
Yeah.
I don't think Jerry Jones is going anywhere anytime soon. But John Lynch, as a 49ers fan, what are the expectations for him coming out of 2019?
I think, it just depends, the health of the team and the talent. Can he show that the players he signed in free agency and the ones he's drafted can produce? Because no one's going to blame the scheme. In a lot of 49ers fans' eyes, Kyle Shanahan is untouchable. He runs that organization. So he believes in the scheme. So has John Lynch gotten the players to fit that scheme? And when you look at it, when Garoppolo goes down, everything changes and people turn negative. But if you're being honest, John Lynch's record as GM as far as the draft has gotten better every year.
Right.
Yeah, he had his rookie year and he had, Solomon Thomas. This is a make or break year. The fiasco that was Reuben Foster, Beathard losing his job. He was a high pick. He was like a 4th round pick, 3rd round pick. He may lose it to an undrafted free agent in Nick Mullins. Witherspoon hasn't developed the way they thought. But you move on to the next draft and you get guys like McGlinchey. You get guys like Pettis. And even before that, you guys like George Kittle. You got him in the 5th round.
Right. Which is a find.
And then this year you go on and I feel like they've gotten better. I think John Lynch has progressively gotten better. But if that talent doesn't mesh and the front office feels like he capitulates too much to Kyle Shanahan, they may look to find someone that maybe not clash with Kyle Shanahan, but will help find talent that maybe Kyle Shanahan.
Right, or maybe just challenge Kyle Shanahan.
Yes, and say, no, we're going to go this route and get these players.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it seems like it's not so much a matter of what the 49ers record's going to be that's going to determine the fate of John Lynch, but more how the team meshes as the season goes along. So, what are we talking about there? Are we talking about just cohesiveness as a team? Are we talking about a certain points per game? Are we talking numbers? Are we talking wins?
I think for them, wins. I think we both know wins drive the narrative. Guys like Ken Solomon Thomas finally break through. He's dealt with massive personal issues, and if you're just anybody, I urge you to check his story and what happened with his sister. It is truly heartbreaking, and it's an amazing story for him and how he's coped with what happened. Can he break through? Can McGlinchey solidify the right side? Can Pettis take the next step? Deebo Samuel they draft. Can these guys kind of coexist, and can they start to gel? Or are they guys that are dropping passes, can't separate? Your offensive line is still a mess. If the talent doesn't produce, he's the one on the hot seat.
Right. And as far as on the Dallas side of the fence, Jerry Jones is I think he's going to keep his job. I think it's fair to say he'll be the GM, barring death.
Yes.
He'll be the GM in 2020.
Short of death.
Right. He'll be the GM in 2020.
But here's the question, though, is as we move on to head coach. So if I were to say, and most 49ers fans would agree, if the 49ers go 9-7 and barely miss the playoffs, or 10-6 and barely miss, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are fine. Can the same be said for Jason Garrett?
No. You missed the playoffs, Garrett's gone. And I don't think that's Jerry Jones's decision. That's Stephen Jones's decision. Stephen Jones has pretty much taken the lead in the Cowboys front office the last few years. And I think you can tell by some of the moves the Cowboys have made over the past 4 to 5 seasons. So this is Stephen Jones's show. And I think it's Stephen Jones that's putting the pressure on Jason Garrett going into 2019. And I think that's why you see Jason Garrett playing out the final year of his contract. There's no extension being signed because, hey, it's a put up or shut up kind of a year. But I don't think that Jason Garrett is going to be judged by the wins that he obtains in the regular season. Hey, I've seen 13-3 before from Jason Garrett. I've seen 12-4. I've seen division titles. Show me something new. And that is the NFC Championship game. So literally, I think Jason Garrett is safe going 7-9 as long as you make the playoffs. But you better get to the NFC Championship game because we're tired of bowing out in the divisional round as Cowboy fans, and I'm sure Stephen Jones feels the same way.
So can he rally a team? Let's say and I think they have a favorable schedule, but let's just say for argument's sake, they come out the gate 3-5. Can he rally this team? Does he have the ability to rally the team to make a playoff run?
Listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Garrett as a coach on game day. I think he's made a lot of mistakes through the years. I mean, dude, you remember the game where he iced his own kicker against the Cardinals? Things like that. I don't think he's the greatest with in-game adjustments, but Jason Garrett, coach Monday through Saturday, I like him. And the one thing that I have to give Jason Garrett, and no matter if you're a big Jason Garrett detractor, there's one thing you can't take away from the man. His team, throughout his tenure, has never given up on him. Nothing highlights that more than the 2018 season where we did start 3-5 and we came back to finish 10-6, win the division, win a home playoff game. And although, we laid an egg in LA, hey, that's a big stretch from 3-5.
No one thought you were doing that when you were 3-5.
Not at 3-5.
No.
Right. So, yeah, I think he can. Definitely.
Yeah, I think when it comes to head coaching, Kyle Shanahan, I mean, he has carte blanche. He is, in their eyes, and I'm not saying, before people get crazy on Twitter, I'm not saying he's this coach, but he's Belichick in the sense of Jed York's not firing Kyle Shanahan. They look at Kyle Shanahan as he's the guy. If there was going to be someone that left, it would be John Lynch. And I think that...
But what if the offense struggles?
You know,
what if the offense becomes one of the... I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Throwing it out there. What if it is at the bottom end of the league?
It's hard to say because I just can't see that. I'm just being... I just can't. Like, it would take I mean, these guys are putting up points with Nick Mullins.
Right.
And a decimated offensive line and a decimated wide receiver corner. They literally had George Kittle and good luck.
Right.
So I feel like, can he capture the Falcons Super Bowl offense? No, because he doesn't have Julio Jones. He doesn't have a Julio Jones. But can he get there? Yeah. So I think it would take an act of God for them to be that bad on offense. Now, if that happens, then yeah, we can revisit this. But I feel like if they go 9-7 or 8-6, the finger's gonna be pointed at Lynch.
Right.
And he's gonna be the one. I think if they make the playoffs, they're great. If they go 9-7 and they barely miss, then I think they're fine. They look at it as they've improved. They've gone from 4-12 to
you're headed in the right direction.
They're finally healthy. But, that's kind of where I feel like Kyle Shanahan has a lot. He's not on the hot seat. He's not close to that.
Yeah, so it seems to me that Garrett is on a lot hotter of a seat than Shanahan, and Lynch is on a hotter seat than Jerry Jones.
Yeah, that's the coldest seat in the world.
I think that's fair to say.
Yes.
I also want to talk a little bit about positions. So is there a position group that going into 2019 you feel has a high expectation?
I know this is going to shock some people because everyone's going to assume the defensive line. And yeah, but I think the defensive line is going to be great. I think they're going to meet those expectations. The one that has those expectations, because you have Kyle Shanahan. And what people don't understand is they associate Kyle Shanahan with quarterbacks. No, it's Kyle Shanahan and receivers. Okay, he was a receiver. So, and he has looked for the same trait in all of his receivers, and that's separation. Can you separate from your cornerback? He doesn't look for size or anything else. It's can you separate? And I look at these receivers, and the expectation for them is, look, You have George Kittle. You have this running game, which is stacked, with McKinnon and Coleman, and, you have Breida. They're stacked, right? So you're the receivers. You're expected to get one-on-one coverage because they're going to stack the box to stop the run.
Right.
So can you guys separate? Can Dante Pettis take that next step and become something special? Can Deebo Samuel have this? They're going to get one-on-one. So I truly believe that the expectations is going to be on this receiving core. I know they're young and people don't think that they're going to have it, but I truly believe they have the expectation because they have the quarterback, the coach, and they'll have the defense to their favor.
I personally would disagree and say I do believe the expectations are on the defensive line because, like you said in a previous podcast, there's 5 first-round picks on that defensive line.
Yes.
I do see where you're coming from with the wide receivers, but here's my thing. I think Dante Pettis, from what I've seen, and I'll be the first one to admit, I did not watch all 16 San Francisco 49er games, but the 4 or 5 that I did watch, Pettis to me looks like a great number 2 option. So Deebo Samuel, is the pressure on him then? Because somebody's got to be a number 1, because I don't see Pettis as a number 1. I just don't.
I think what you have to look at in that case is that there's no number 1 because that hasn't been presented to them. You look at it like there hasn't been one in the draft that they've been able to draft, right? There hasn't been that number 1. Can Pettis be a 1A? Can he be like slightly below that? Maybe. But I think what Shanahan, how he builds his offense is the number 1 is George Kittle. He's the receiver.
Agreed.
He's the number 1.
Agreed.
And can they get open? And that's the thing is that they have to get open because guess what? Just like defenses adjusted to Garoppolo, and you saw like towards the end of the 2017 season, the middle of the field was wide open. You watch the Minnesota Vikings game when they went up there and lost. They shut the middle of the field down.
Right.
You had Harrison Smith, just clogging up the middle. And everything that was supposed to be open, he either batted the ball or hit the receiver, disrupted the middle of the field. Okay. So they adjusted. Defenses are going to adjust to George Kittle, just like they did Garoppolo.
Right.
Oh, no, you're not getting free.
Oh, yeah.
So then the pressure and the expectation is, okay, you guys, you have one of the best play callers, you have a running game, you have a decent offensive line, and you have a tight end that's going to draw linebackers and safeties away from you. Your job is to beat your corner. Okay, and you're going to run play action and bootlegs off of that.
Basically, what you're saying is for the offense to have success, it's going to be because these wide receivers are going to be expected to step up.
Yes.
In Shanahan's offense.
Yes.
Fair enough. I mean, I understand that.
Yeah.
It's just I wonder if they have the talent to consistently do that against great defenses and great defensive backfields. But, I mean, that's something to look for in 2019. As far as the Cowboys go, as far as position group, I think without a doubt it's the offensive line. This was one of the most highly touted position groups of any position for years and years since, the 2014 season.
Yeah.
This has been touted as the best, if not, well, I should say one of the best, if not the best offensive line. But last year, Dak took a whole hell of a lot of sacks. And for as much crap as I gave Dak Prescott, I got to admit, he was under duress over the majority of the season. La'el Collins looked like a turnstile at right tackle last season. He gave up a lot of sacks. I don't think Connor Williams, as a rookie, was strong enough to really solidify the middle at the guard position. If you noticed, late in the season, he wasn't playing very much. Mm-hmm. And they put in Su'a-Filo.
Yeah.
And so that tells you something.
I don't think Connor Williams is meant to be guard. Side note, I hate to do this, but breaking news for the 49ers. Joe Staley just signed an extension and will be with the team through 2021 since we're speaking of O-line.
Hey, let's do it.
Yeah, so I just saw that, came across on Bleacher Report, and it's kind of cool, just quick thoughts since we're talking O-line. The 49ers line I feel is pretty good. And I mean, adding someone like Joe Staley, he's just a hallmark of that. He is the equivalent to the Jason Witten of your guys' team. He's just the heart and soul. He's the guy that's been there through the ups and downs. So I just kind of wanted to share that information. Joe Staley signed an extension, will be with the 49ers through 2021. Awesome. Love it. Joe Show, great show he puts on YouTube. Fantastic. Back to our topic.
Look, so with the offensive line, and you know what? You brought up Jason Witten, so I should probably go into that. As far as a player on the Dallas Cowboys with that I'm very interested on the expectations, it's Jason Witten. Jason Witten took a year off. He didn't do too great in the booth. What did he say? He pulled what did he say? Not a rabbit out of the hat, but a rabbit out of his head.
Yeah, he was having.
He made a few of those, where I was like, and I love the Cowboys, and I love Troy Aikman and Tony Romo in the booth. But last year, listening to Witten, I was kind of like, dude, sorry, man, I love you.
I blame Brian Dawkins. He must have knocked some of that stuff right out of his head. Yeah,
right. It must be something like that. Yeah. But here's the thing: Blake Jarwin late in the season was starting to come on, and yeah, he may never be a Jason Witten. I don't think there will be the next Jason Witten anytime soon on the Cowboys roster. Mm-hmm. But are we slowing down progression? Basically, it may not be some great expectation that I have for Jason Witten. I'm not talking about a 1,000-yard season and a 10-touchdown season. I'm just talking about, is he going to be, at his age, solid enough and be able to produce enough to justify slowing down the progression of a Blake Jarwin, of a Dalton Schultz, who we drafted a couple of years ago? I sure hope so. And for me, there's a lot of expectation for Jason Witten because he better be that security blanket that he was for Romo all those years and for Dak his rookie season in order to impede that progress, because we're a young team.
Yeah, and I think, I want to touch on this a little bit with the tight ends for you guys, is that I don't think there's a tight end on there that has shown enough for them not to kind of welcome Witten back in. If one of them had kind of stepped up. I do have a question, just going back to our previous topic real quick, about pressure for the group, right? Expectations for a group. You talked about your offensive line. What about your linebackers? I mean, we were talking, you were talking about these linebackers with Jalen Smith and Leonard Van Der Esch. And then you got, Sean Lee. Like, is there expectation for these guys? Because they feels like, with your defensive line, it's DeMarcus Lawrence and whatever they can put on the field. So it's going to be up to these linebackers to run, to cover.
Well, they signed Robert Quinn. And look, I know he's not the Robert Quinn of 2014 and 15, but, I mean, he's decent.
Yeah.
He's decent enough.
So I just was wondering about that because your young linebackers kind of was the centerpiece of that defense for a little bit.
It was, without a doubt. But kind of like what you said, I expect them to produce.
Yeah.
I expect Jalen Smith to get better than he was from that injury, 1 year removed from that terrible Notre Dame injury. Mm. I expect Leighton Van Der Esch to improve his sophomore season. So I'm kind of like you with the defensive line. I'm sort of going to take that for granted, and I'm more concerned with what's happening at the tight end spot long term.
Yeah. When I look at players for them, the expectations, it's almost unfair to name George Kittle because he broke record. He broke receiving yards record, and he was the focal point. But I'm gonna look at a player that kind of had an okay season, and it's gonna be interesting because coming off injury is Richard Sherman.
That's interesting
because he came off the Achilles injury, and from what you hear now is that he's healed 100%. He wasn't 100%, and this defense. You have this defensive front, so you need to be able to have these cornerbacks cover and be able to pick the ball off. The interceptions is the issue. They went to them, they said, okay, we got you D Ford, we got you Bosa, we're changing the front, we got Quan Alexander, so the middle of the field, we have speed at the linebacker position, we have speed at the defensive line. Your guys' job is to pick that ball off, whether you're a corner or a safety. So Richard Sherman, this was his game. Okay,
right.
Intelligent. You picked him off. You got in the end zone, and he wasn't that. I mean, he had good games, but he was not the way he was before. So the expectation is, hey, you said you just needed a year. You said you weren't 100%. Now you're 100% from that Achilles injury. Okay, what does 100% Richard Sherman look like now? Are you really 100%, or are you 100% of old Richard Sherman?
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great point, because I think Richard Sherman sort of got a pass for coming off the Achilles injury last season. And I don't think he's ever going to be Legion of Boom 2015 Richard Sherman. But like you said, what is Richard Sherman? So let me ask you, you're the 49ers fan. What do you expect from Richard Sherman? Maybe numbers, picks, deflections.
I think you line him up against the big receivers. I think he still has the ability to kind of not shut them down, but slow them down technique-wise. I think that what used to give Richard Sherman, even in his best, problems was like the T.Y. Owens, the quick receivers, you know, shifty receivers.
In and out of their routes.
And I think that's going to be huge. I mean, you watch the game against Minnesota, and you see guys just, you know, comebacks, quick slants, and they just tore him up. Like Thielen and Diggs. And you want to see, okay, can you handle that? And I mean, yeah, you know, I don't have a problem because I think his game and their defense is predicated on bend but don't break.
Right.
Okay, but you can't let that happen in the red zone.
Right.
You can't let that happen on third down.
No.
You're not going to have to cover for 4 or 5 seconds. You're going to have to cover, if everything works right, you're going to cover for 2, 3. So if these guys are still getting open and he's trailing them and they're catching, then it's a problem. If he's able to kind of blanket them and he's able to kind of be around them and disrupt them, then it's different. If he can be disruptive, what I don't want to see and what I will consider a failure for Richard Sherman is just him a yard or 2 or 3 yards away from the receiver he was responsible for.
Right.
Catching wide open passes. You know?
Right. Fair enough on that. So overall, I'll throw something in. I'll end on this. I won't call it an expectation, but I'll put it on my wish list. I really do hope, this coming from a Cowboys fan, man, I really do hope the 49ers make the playoffs this season. I love to see that Cowboys-49ers rivalry. I love to see a playoff matchup. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I mean that would just be... I don't know what could top that at this point.
Yeah. I mean, if I knew that they were both going to make the playoffs, oh, my God, yes. I mean, can you imagine the history of whether they're going to Santa Clara or to Dallas? You know, and that, especially, man, I know it's outlandish, but imagine the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can talk.
I don't think that's possible, but, you know.
Hey, we can dream, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. You know,
look, you got to remember history.
Yeah.
The Niners of the 80s, you know, no one has expected them to win. They went 13-3.
Right.
Host of the NFC out of nowhere. Harbaugh's first couple years, no one expected that.
No, they didn't.
You know, teams come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't know what the Rams are going to be. We don't know what the Seahawks. We kind of know what the Cardinals are going to be.
Yeah.
And the same thing, we don't know what the Eagles are going to be. We know what the Giants are going to be. And we don't know what the Redskins. So could it be possible they're playing, you know, in the divisional round? They're playing in the playoffs and, you know, we bring back that rivalry. The NFL needs those rivalries back.
It does, because that is a classic rivalry that has survived throughout the decades, 70s, 80s, 90s. Hell, even the Romo-Harbaugh game, I think about Romo's big game, and obviously you guys were the team to beat at that point. Yeah. But, hey, you know, like, we have our stories.
Yeah.
We have our backstories, and I just want to keep that going, man. And that's what this podcast is going to be all about going into the 2019 season. Cowboys, 49ers crosstalk. We're talking a little bit about expectations, but man, I'd love to see the legend continue.
Rivalry renewed.